What's going on, guys? Welcome back to After the Credits, the review show that no one, and I mean absolutely, positively no one asked for. Today we are talking about Mafia, the Old Country. I was looking forward to this game. I am one of the few people in this world that absolutely loved Mafia 3. So when I heard Mafia Old Country was coming out, I completely blacklisted myself from it, didn't look at any gameplay, went in totally blind, and we played through it and we beat it, and I've got some thoughts. So let's go ahead and talk about it, shall we? Diving in to Mafia the Old Country. So as usual for this series, we're going to start off with a story conversation. This is a single player game. You're here for this story, and I'm not going to spoil it. I never do. I refuse to. So I'm going to give you guys the most condensed version of this story that I can possibly muster, and if it sounds interesting to you, this game might be for you. If not, maybe it's not, but that's for you to decide. So anyways, in this game you play a character named Enzo, and he works for the Teresi crime family in their vineyard as a slave, essentially. And you are playing through this game as you would expect, going from the bottom and then being inducted into the family and kind of your career progression through the Mafia. And that's one side of the story, but the other side of the story is kind of eye-rolly, but it is a forbidden love story. Essentially, Enzo falls in love with Isabella Teresi, the daughter of the Don of the Teresi family. And this game does take place between the years of 1906 and 1908. And during this time, arranged marriages were very, very common for power advancements and things of that nature. And of course, marrying within the family doesn't really give the Don any specific perks. So it's not really something that's going to happen. And so while you're climbing the Mafia ladder, you're essentially working with Isabella on the side to gain the Don's trust in order to ask for her hand in marriage, or to downright escape the family altogether with Isabella and flee and live your life happily ever after. So those are the two stories going on here throughout the game that you're going to be going through. What I will say is that I believe that this game is very serviceable. I'm not gonna say that it's bad, but it's certainly not great. I've played a lot of very good stories this year, and this game does fall on the kind of the latter, the worst side. It's not a game-changing story. It's not a life-changing experience by any means. It's fun enough. It gets the job done. It keeps you hooked to the end, and the game is only about 10 to 12 hours long, so it's not going to hold you hostage for an incredibly long period of time. But I don't know if I would recommend the game just based on the story. I think it's pretty predictable, and it doesn't really do anything to kind of reinvent the wheel. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Take that or leave it. That's kind of my thoughts on it. All right, now let's take a second and talk about the visuals. I think this game looks absolutely fantastic. I love the way that the Teresi family's, their main location, Don Teresi's house, is on this vineyard on top of a hill, and you get these beautiful scenic views as you leave the family house, going out into the cities that are spread out around Sicily. And you just, when you come out of that house, you just see this beautiful vineyard on this hill, and the graphics are fantastic. The light is beautiful. It's very well done in this game, and in honor of ACG, go check his channel out. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know if you watch gaming content, but he does this series called Walking the Walk, where he just walks and doesn't run. He just walks and takes in the scenery that the developers created. And I actually did that with this game and had a really fantastic time with it, just kind of taking it all in. At the end of the day, developers put a lot of time into this project. So most gamers would just hop in a horse or hop on a car. I should flip those. Would hop on a horse or hop in a car and just fly by all of this beautiful scenery. But it was nice to just take a step back, enjoy what the game was putting out, and goddamn, game looks absolutely fantastic. But that comes with a little bit of a downside. Performance in this game, I would say 90% of the time is great. However, I did have some frame rate issues and some performance troubles, to say the least. I did play on a base PS5. I have to reiterate that in every episode that I put out there. I don't have a PS5 Pro, and I didn't play it on my PC. I prefer to play games on my PlayStation, so that's how I played it. And what I would typically run into is every time I would come out of a cutscene and then go back into the game world itself, I would always get about, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds of frame hitching and frame stuttering and some stutters and issues. Those would eventually resolve themselves and the game would run perfectly fine. After that initial, hiccup, clearly the game was rendering assets after the cutscene and it tried to do it while you were in the game, and it just made for this kind of stumbly bumbly moment. Again, it's not something that's going to affect your gameplay experience because it doesn't affect things. You're not going to go from a cutscene right into a gunfight and have all this performance problems, and then it's pretty much when you come out of a cutscene and go into the world itself that you're going to have problems. And yeah, that's kind of it. I bring this up because it bothers the shit out of me. It takes my immersion out of it when I have these performance type of hiccups. So that's going to negatively impact my thoughts on the game. But if you can overlook that, it's not going to be offensive or it's not going to ruin your play session. It's just going to be something you'll definitely notice because it happened many times throughout my playthrough. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I completely put my blinders on for this game. I didn't want to have anything spoiled for me. Didn't even know who the main character was before I went into the game. Had no clue. Didn't want to have a clue. But I'm bringing this up because we're going to dive into the gameplay aspect. And one of the main things that the development team did for this game is they went for a heavy focus on knife combat in this game, which I was unfamiliar with. I would have known about that had I watched any of the pre-release footage, but I didn't. So they developed this system based around knives. And you would think I would love this, being a guy that has just started recently collecting a bunch of pocket knives. I don't know where that came from. I just feel like I should have knives. So I've got like a bunch of knives. I don't know what the fuck. I'm a weird ass guy. Either way, I in theory should love this, but unfortunately, I don't think the knife combat is all that good. Sorry, I just didn't enjoy it that much. To be fair, it basically becomes a battle of spamming a slash attack or a thrust attack and hoping you land. That's basically it. They do give you a parry for when the enemy attacks, as well as a step dodge. So it's kind of intricate in that way. But the only real variety in the combat is occasionally the opponent will take a block stance where they'll put their hands up, and you are forced in that situation to throw a heavy slash, which is a right R2, and this will stagger them and knock them out of that block stance. So then you can go back to repeatedly smashing a slash attack or a thrust attack trying to deal damage. And that's kind of it. It's not very deep. I appreciate that they try to do something different because the Mafia franchise is known as being a third-person shooter, and this was definitely straying away from that. Just don't think it worked all that well, and to be honest, I don't think it looks that great in post watching these knife fights either, because it just isn't animated very fluidly. It looks very thrown together, I guess. It doesn't look all that great. It's not that appetizing to the eyes, or however you want to put it. So I just don't think it worked that well. I didn't like come into a knife fight and be like, oh fuck, here we go, another shitty knife fight. That wasn't really what happened, but I wasn't like super excited to do those knife fights either. So either way, very unique. Didn't hit for me though, unfortunately. That being said, knife fighting is not the only combat in this game. You do have some weapons here, and you do get that third-person shooter gameplay here, as we've seen in previous entries in the Mafia franchise. And I distinctly remember Mafia 3 had a very satisfying pistol. I think I played that entire game with the pistol because it was just so fun to shoot. The sound was really satisfying and all that. I don't think the gunplay in Mafia, the Old Country, is very good though. So this is really, I'm shitting on the game here, but it's just the truth of the matter. I don't think that any of the weapons particularly feel very well or fun to use. I think the sound design is great. I think all that stuff hits. It just doesn't feel that good to get in gunfights in this game. I don't really know what the reason for that is. Obviously, your arsenal in this game is guns from the early 1900s, so it's not like a crazy strong set of weapons. You got side-to-side shotguns, you got sawed-off shotguns, you got a few rifles that you can use throughout the game, a couple different like pump action shotguns, a sniper, well, it's not even a sniper rifle in air quotes, basically just a long rifle and stuff like that. But just don't think the combat was all that good. Essentially, you kind of have to go into your aim mode, wait for the cursor to kind of close in, and then you can take a shot. You can't really be very fluid with the combat, so it's a lot of kind of waiting around, exposed from cover, taking shots. I don't know. Just didn't really like that too much. I understand that what they were going for. These are old guns. You need time to set your shot. I get it and understand it. Just didn't feel that great in practice. So gameplay is fucking not something that I passionately enjoyed. Other than that, though, you will spend your time riding horses and driving cars. The cars are particularly loosey-goosey in this game, as I would call it. They're very, you're on dirt roads throughout the entirety of the game. There is very little asphalt here, and you will quickly realize that the car is going to slide every fucking direction that you go. It is very difficult to control these cars. Again, true to the setting, not necessarily the most enjoyable thing to experience. The horses are a much more reliable way of getting around, being that they aren't able to spin out and crash at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but they're slower. So, I don't know, pick your poison. I would say the first third of the game, you're on a horse, and then the back 2/3, you're driving around. So, there you go. Either way, yeah, I don't know. Gameplay just wasn't all that spectacular for me. I just might not have liked this game, I'm realizing. Oof, not good. So we touched on sound design. I think the weapon sounds are good. The engine sounds are quite good. I think the horses and all of the clanking of the hooves sounds good. But in particular, the voice acting is really fantastic in this game, I believe. I think all the actors did a fantastic job. I probably should have played this game in Sicilian with English subtitles, but I'm a fucking lousy, lazy American, so I just played everything on English. But I still think they performed their roles in English very well. Huge shout out to Don Teresi. I think his presence is absolutely fantastic here. So whoever voice acted the Don did a fantastic job. He had a standout performance in this game and really brought that character to life, which I very much appreciated. And that goes for every character in the game. The Don is just, I would say, a step above everybody else, but everybody else is well above average. And so that was a very nice thing that I very much enjoyed throughout my playthrough. All right, so that is going to lead us to the conclusion portion of the video. Yeah. This is an interesting game. I think it's interesting. I don't think I would recommend it to anybody, though, to be honest. I don't think there's really a whole lot here that's worth checking out. I think you could probably just watch a video of all the cutscenes compiled and get a good grasp of what this game has to offer, because I don't necessarily think the gameplay is all that great. So if you're just in it for the story, you can get all that stuff on YouTube. I don't think it's really worth playing. That being said, I am going to give it a C. I think it's a 5 out of 10 game. We've had a lot of C's this year. I know, at the end of the year, we're going to have the C category absolutely flooded. I might have to make C, D cheeks. So S, A, B, C, D cheeks. So that way we can split some of the C's into a lower tier. I don't think this game would end up there. I think it is a solid C, right at the 5 out of 10 range. Not doing anything exponentially good. But I do appreciate that they went for a more linear story here. I didn't really mention that, so I guess I'll talk about it briefly here in the conclusion section. There is an open world of Sicily to explore, but this game is very linear. It's very, very linear focused if you decide to play it that way. You just kind of go from point A to point B city, do mission in city, drive back to point A. So not a lot of open world exploration done here, which, is fine with me. I think that open world games are completely kind of out of fashion, I guess. Maybe not out of fashion. I think they're mostly just not done well. So I appreciate that they went for a more linear direction here. I think that worked. And again, this game is about 10 to 12 hours long, so it's not going to hold you hostage like I mentioned earlier. It's pretty in and out experience. Just don't know if that experience is necessarily worth it. So that's all I got for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thanks for your patience. I know I've been lackadaisically putting videos out as of late. Just haven't really found anything to make content on, but of course, when we finish games, we'll still talk about them here. Other than that, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you all. I love you all. If you don't mind, consider liking and subscribing. Still trying to hit 300 by the end of the year. I don't even know if I'm going to shoot for that goal, to be honest. I don't even care. Don't subscribe if you don't want to. You be you. Live your own life. Either way, appreciate you guys watching. We will see you guys on the next episode. Take it easy.